Welcome to Nerds Amalgamated, a podcast that covers the latest events in science, pop culture, and gaming.
I'm the professor, aspiring game developer, sci-fi aficionado, and completely and undeniably a geek trying to take over the world. I'll be breaking down the news from tech to gaming.
I am the DJ, a humble nerd, a big weeb,
and a watcher from the halls of the multiverse.
Just kidding. Anyways, I'll be breaking down all things comics to movies to anime.
Join us and stay hydrated as we quench you with witty banter, unintentionally hilarious hot takes, and trivia more fun than a night at the pub, courtesy of Nerds Amalgamated. Welcome back to Nerds Amalgamated. This week we're joined by Aidan from Neural Forge, a board game designer. He's got some projects on Kickstarter at the moment. Aidan, could you tell us a bit about those?
Hi, and thank you guys for inviting me onto the show. We have a Kickstarter live at the moment for our game Nimbus. It's the first game that we've published. We actually published it a year ago, just with a premium version. So now we've hit Kickstarter, bringing out our deluxe version. So still a high quality product, but a simpler version to make things a bit cheaper. Do you want me to run through the essentials of the game itself right now?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Go ahead, man.
So Nimbus it's a similar concept to chess. Fortunately, I can't hold up pieces right now. It runs with tetrahedral pieces, so like a D4, with different colors and symbols on each corner, and runs on a triangular grid. So similar concept to chess. You've got 8 pieces aside, white and black, with the different colored corners, but one piece is different and marked with the Nimbus symbol, basically a star on each face. So the goal is to eliminate your opponent's Nimbus piece or all their other pieces. On your turn, you move a piece according to its current movement mode, which is the symbol pointing up, and then you may change the orientation of one of your other pieces after you've moved a piece. You eliminate pieces by landing on them, and that's it. Extremely simple. Like I can rattle off pretty much all the rules in 30 seconds. But it has great depth of strategy, just like chess does.
And I see you've got an online version of it on your website that people can try out.
Yeah, so we have a version on mchess.io that was graciously developed by the team there. We met them at PAX in Melbourne last year. We were actually selected for the Indie Showcase down there. We met one of the guys from MChess. He came by the booth and offered to make us an online version. So jumped on that, and it's been really great. I've had a lot of good reception at conventions from people that have been excited to go away and play it online. People that have seen us at the convention and then gone home and played it with their mates and told us about it the next day. I've even roped people at work into playing it. Got some people trying to sharpen their skills and become masters already.
Okay, I bet you must have, when you made that game, you must have gone, I'm gonna ruin a lot of relationships out of this.
Oh, not specifically. It really depends on if part of the relationship is sore losers or not. I did definitely have a couple at PAX that came by, and they ended up getting a game, despite what they ended up saying about how strategy games go for them. Because I think they just thought it was pretty enough to go on the coffee table. But they were like, strategy games are usually a case of they'll play it once to learn the rules, and then the next game's mastery, and the third game's for blood, and then it doesn't get played after that. So I wonder how the coffee they got is going.
I gotta say, it was amazing how your project on Kickstarter hit the target really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it has been great to see. And yeah, I think last it looked we're sitting at 142%.
Mm.
We do have a relatively low target because all our sets are self-manufactured. So I am designer, publisher, and manufacturer all in one. So I don't have a minimum order quantity that I need to fill. So it really helps with bringing down the minimum funding amount.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm like I said, I'm very because I met you guys over at Gold Coast
Yes,
Supernova,
yes.
and had a game with you guys, and I think I lost like after 3 moves with one of with one of the guys.
Yes, I can imagine exactly the move that Brian pulled on you. Um, I'm usually not so cutthroat with people new to the game, but there's definitely an opener that you can fall right into. But I'm sure you learnt your lesson after that one.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I yeah, I mean it's been great. We've always had really amazing reception for the game
Mm.
at conventions. So I knew going into Kickstarter that we wouldn't have a problem with funding, because almost anyone who has played the game has seemed to really enjoy it. Actually, to more than a higher percentage of people have enjoyed the game than I actually expected, because chess is not for everyone, and it is a similar concept. So I wasn't expecting it to win over every person that came by, but I think the simplicity of picking up the game, combined with the I don't know, somewhat revolution. No, not revolutionary is the wrong term, but the ability to change your pieces mid game is a bit of a wow factor when I explain that to people, and I think that really wins people over, and like they love that dynamic element of the game. It doesn't have that system of moves that chess has. That it's all about patterns in chess, and most masters just learn the patterns, and once they recognize them, they know how to win, what the next play is. But because the board can change so much with changing pieces, that it doesn't get that level of gridlock that
Mm.
chess does. So it's much more beginner friendly in a sense. And yeah, I've had very few people that have obviously just outright been like, "Nah, this is not for me." Of course, there are some. Ev- It's you're never going to make a game for everyone, and you should never aim to do so.
How how did Nimbus came about? By the way, I want to hear the backstory of this.
Yeah. So I'll set the scene for you. So, um, yeah, this is in the very early days of my when my just after my daughter was born. So a lot of long sleepless nights, um, hours of getting her to sleep in the middle of the night. So one night, rather long, grueling 3-hour stint of getting her back to sleep in the middle of the night. Pretty much how I maintain my sanity is I design board games in my head, as I pace back and forth. And yeah, that night I asked myself, I was like, you've got all these game ideas. I think at the time it was actually I'd only had maybe 20 ideas written down in my list. These days it's clocks over 100. But at the time I thought that was a lot. I was like, I don't have anything that's just a simple like a board and pieces like chess. I wonder if I could come up with something that fits that genre. Well, 3 hours later, the answer was yes. Um, so the way I started thinking it in after asking myself that question, I started thinking about the sort of pieces and the sort of aesthetics that I like, because I was like, if I'm going to come up with an idea like this, it needs to have the ability to look nice on the table like a fancy chess set. So what aesthetics do I like? I'm a big fan of Egyptian aesthetics. That made me think of the pyramid, and pyramid led me to the triangular pyramid, the tetrahedron, and once I had the idea of a tetrahedral piece in my head, pretty much everything flows from there. As soon as you got a tetrahedron, you need a triangular grid, no squares. You've got 4 points. Well, let's throw different symbols on each point. Then I must need to be able to change between them. And yeah, from there, it's funny actually. That night I did think of different movement modes, and then I think it was the next day I was like, oh no, maybe that's overcomplicating things. We'll just go with one mode for everything, but use a trump system where different elements beat each other, which is a common question I get with Nimbus, and sometimes an assumption people make is that there is a trump system in it, and the elements are a holdover from that rule set that I thought of, which used a trump system, but we got through half a playtest with it, and it was terrible. After that playtest, Nimbus sat on the shelf for about 6 months, until I think it was probably a shower thought moment. The other place I do have a lot of good ideas, a lot of design work. I know just lets the mind wander, and my water bill is probably not great for it, but I have far too many breakthroughs.
You must have you must have like a notepad and a pen like outside the shower. It's like I've got it. I'm gonna.
I, I
I'm
really I really should actually. But yes, plenty of Archimedes moments thanks to water.
Yeah, I know someone who kept a diver's pad in their shower for when they had shower thoughts.
No way.
Oh, that's actually a really good idea.
I bet you after this episode, Aiden, you're gonna go to Amazon to like Diapers pads. Here you go.
Yeah, good chance. Um, but yeah, so I had the thought, and it was actually a backtrack. I'd completely forgotten about the fact that in that original 3 hours, I was thinking about different movement modes. So I went back to that, but a different set. I think the original ones I thought of were still relatively basic. But yeah, started fleshing out different possible movement patterns that they could have. Yeah, started playtesting those. Went great. And the actual core playtesting for Nimbus took a remarkably small amount of time. I fleshed out most of it within about a week of lunch breaks. I think it spilled over maybe into a second week. And that was just trying out different patterns. What ended up being completely unbalanced. Originally, fire movement was able to move unlimited spaces. Thinking just like a rook in chess. That turned out way too powerful because the difference in grid type in chess, of course, a rook can move in 4 directions. Fire, in this case, it still moves out through the flat, but from each flat it goes in down 2 lines. So you had 6 directions of movement with unlimited movement. Way too powerful. So it got dialed back. And one of the hardest ones to flesh out was Earth, because it's a jumping movement, sort of like the horse. The knight in chess, but making a pattern that wasn't too complicated for people to visualize on a triangular grid, which our brains are not used to triangular grids. We're good with squares. Most people can handle hexagons, but triangles do take some getting used to for most people because we just don't encounter it enough. Yeah, so I had to come up with something that had that kind of jumping movement, but wasn't too complicated for us to process and visualize. So that one took the longest. But yeah, after that, it was down to playtesting at conventions and fairly easy after there. Um,
So how many playtests did you conducted for it to go? I've got it. This is it. I'm not doing any more modifications or anything like that.
um, I don't actually have a record, which I know is not excellent form, but this is my early days on serious design. Um, but those early fleshing out of different movement modes was, I don't know, it wouldn't have been more than 20 playtests, I think, before I got hit my first convention. I took those modes uh, to the first convention, and there, I mean, 2 days of non-stop playing, and we had 2 sets going, so that would have been a lot. But we encountered no problems during those 2 days, so after that, we're like, yep, it's good to go. So it's really hard to say how many. I mean, over 2 days and 2 sets, that could have easily been 50 plus games that we played before being like, yeah, this is definitely good to go.
So, how old were you when you first designed a game?
All right. Now this one's. I mean, the short answer to that is I don't know, single digit years. So might have been 8 or something when I can recall first designing a game. But yeah, would you like me to go into the my recollection of my, I guess, design journey, or journey in becoming a game designer?
Yeah, sure, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, this one's probably a bit long-winded. Um, so back when it was only about 3 years ago. Just over 3 years ago that I decided that I was going to get serious into like becoming a publisher. At that point, I had been playing around with game design for I'm gonna say probably 4 or 5. Yeah, probably about 4 years then. Um, I'd been playing around with game designs, writing things up, but I had a terrible habit of getting into things, being like, yeah, I'm going to do it, maybe even starting to prototype something, but never completing a project, never getting it to the table to playtest. I mean, that's been a lifelong problem for me for the most part, and it is the hardest part of starting as a game designer is just get something on the table. So yeah, I had a few different designs that sat half completed until I had an idea for a TCG about 3.5 years ago now, and then I was like, yeah, this is a great idea. I had the came up with the idea, and then within the next week, I had a prototype and was testing it. I was like, yeah, I'm going to start a company, going to uh, going to publish this. Of course, things have changed a lot since then. And somewhere in there, I started listening to the Board Game Design Lab podcast. And one of the first episodes, Jamie Stegmaier talks about his early days of designing games. And it reminded me that yes, my design journey did not start only now 7 years ago or something. It started as long ago as I can remember, pretty much, because I do recall now I started attempting to make a game that I think would have been similar to Runebound. Back way back when I lived down in New South Wales. So yeah, I would have been younger than 10 at that point, and I think that is the earliest game I can definitely recall attempting to make. And even in the few years after that, there's been, I don't know, some spaceship games I can roughly remember. Sadly, nothing concrete that I can go back to. And I think, I did that in those early years, but I'd completely forgotten about it. For, through my teen years, I don't think I did so much game design. I got into a lot of playing Warhammer, and I liked making up my own units and characters with that, but it wasn't true game design. So yeah, that was lost through my teen years and not picked up again until my probably early 20s, when I started getting it more into heavy games, and coming down the path that I'm on now. So yeah, that's kind of my long-winded back history of game design, and the reason I bring that up is it's important for people to maybe think back on what they used to do as a child, because it's a very common thing where you do something a lot as a child and then you go through high school, you go into uni, and you start going down a path that doesn't end up actually necessarily being right for you. It's not a perfect fit. And if you'd had the right sort of nurturing for that creative thing, that you used to do as a child that came naturally to you, then you might have got, if you had the right nurturing, you might have got to the same place far sooner. So I don't know, for those listeners that maybe have kids that are inclined towards any form of creative thing, or I guess even sports and stuff, think about whether or not that might be worth nurturing. Maybe that is the correct path for the child, and maybe that's where they'll end up no matter what. And encouraging those natural things, could help them become more fulfilled people much faster, and be better for them in the long run. Yeah.
So you're gonna tell your kid, you're gonna tell your daughter that as well, like, okay, do as what daddy said.
It's definitely a case of always keep trying to keep our eyes open for. I mean, my kid's still very young, but it's definitely going to be a case of keeping our eyes open for the things that they really gravitate towards, and like that's what comes naturally to you. Like from a very young age, my daughter has been really into building things. So it would not surprise me if that is something that carries through for her whole life. And I mean that was me as a kid as well, building, designing, and just imagining things that I could create. For a long time, I was into engineering and stuff, and almost everything that I've gotten into has an element of creation to it. So even though I deviated from game design, it was is still creation as the big driving factor. And I've just come back to this thing that came so naturally to me.
So how did the name Neuroforge came into being? Was that your own design, or is that a group? Is that a group thing, or was it just something you heard from a song or something like that, or was that a shower
Uh,
thought?
no, that one was a pretty extended discussion between the team early on. We wanted that one's a very purposeful decision. So we wanted to come up with something that invoked the fact that I'm not likely to design a party game. I'm going to make games that make you scratch your head. Not necessarily puzzles, but things. I like heavyweight games. I have still designed a children's game, but still not the most simple game. So I wanted the name of the company to express the fact that we're going to make games that, for whatever age they're designed for, they encourage thought. They encourage brain building, ideally. And so we throw around a lot of possible names. I kind of remember. I know there was one that we were like, "Yep, we're definitely going to go with this one," and then we looked it up, and it was already taken. Um,
Or
and
what's okay? What's the wildest one that you thought of? And you go, that's the name, and then you thought, ah,
uh, I can't remember most of. I know one alternative we thought of was like cultivation games, cultivating mental growth and stuff. I think
that makes sense.
yeah, some of the names were definitely thrown out for, I don't know, sounding too much like math games online and stuff. So there was a strong sense of not sounding too much like the sorts of things that I know some people didn't like playing in math class or whatever. Things like brain game or whatever, brain games.
Oh.
There were probably ideas like that thrown around. Oh yeah, so that's how we. I don't know. I just must have eventually landed on Neural. I know there was a big toss up between whether it was Neural Forge or Neuron Forge. It was a bit of a 50-50 divide on people that we asked about the two, but I think I ended up just going executive decision on Neural Forge between those two in the end.
It's like, that's it. I'm going with the Euroforge. Screw you guys. I'm going with this name.
Yeah, it was a very strong 50-50 split. So I was just like, well, I'm gonna go with my pick then.
You just went with the captain's call.
Yeah, and that's that's what you got to do sometimes. If it's a solid split, you just gotta make the choice.
Yep.
So, what is your favorite game mechanic that you've ever seen?
Oof, geez, that's a broad question.
Yeah, something that you really wish you'd come up with.
You stumped him.
Yeah, really broad questions. All right, let's spitball things that I really like. Something that possibly my favorite game at the moment, Star Wars Rebellion. It's not an outlandish mechanic, but I really like the way they deal with the different damage types and dice. So everything in that game, it either rolls a disregarding the expansion, it either rolls a black die or a red die, which is pretty much heavy damage, light damage, but different units get damaged more easily by one type or the other. And it's a really elegant way of making fighter craft hard to hit with the weapons on a capital ship that are designed for taking out other capital ships, but then you can have fighter craft that roll the right dice for hitting other fighter craft or capital ships. It's just a really elegant solution to making it so it's not always a case of, oh yeah, build the big thing. You just want the big thing. You got to have that balance of different colored dice, and it's only 2 different colors. But yeah, I really like that. It's definitely a mechanic that I keep in mind for whether or not there's a game that needs something similar to that. So yeah, that's definitely up there. Sorry, it's a very big question. What's other game mechanics? See, something that's impressed me recently is the new Mistborn game. And that game elegantly solves problems with deck builders that I almost didn't fully see until I encountered their solution to it. So common deck builders that use a run of cards in the middle that you're selecting from, they do face the problem if you don't have the types of cards come out in that run that you actually want, and it's your turn and you got all this money or whatever for buying cards, and you don't want anything there. You either have to take something you don't want, pass your turn, which that's generally terrible, or buy the whatever generic card has been added to the game. They elegantly solve that with actually 2 mechanics. One, you can save 50% of your money in tokens that can be used later, and they about halfway through the game, you unlock the ability to buy a card and burn it instantly for effect. And that one in particular, when I first read the rule, I didn't even understand why it was in there until I played and realized that it so elegantly allows you to make the game keep cycling cards, and your deck doesn't get choked up by something that you don't want, but you still get benefit. You're not wasting your your resources for the turn. So yeah, I guess I'd put that in there as something that I would love to have come up with those solutions myself for really common problems in deck builders with central runs. And actually, one of my early game designs was a deck builder, and I even knew that problems like that would arise, and I did not think of a solution like that. So kudos to the team at that's Brotherwise Games for solving that.
So in your game designing phase, when you're designing when you're designing a game, what's the mindset that you go with, and do you have a ritual or a certain process to get into that mindset at times?
No, in a sense, I'm quite often always designing.
Hmm.
It's very passively at the back of my mind, and so my day job, I work in a warehouse. I do a lot of hands-on stuff, and I have a lot of time for my mind to wander while I'm, just picking orders, packing boxes, whatever. Like, so a lot of my design work is done at work, just passively, or whilst well, less these days, but still some, done whilst getting kids to sleep or just doing things around the house. It's very much a passive process for me. In terms of designing a game specifically, though, it can vary a lot. There might be a spur of the moment idea that I just just suddenly run with. That's actually what happened with our second game that we released a couple of weeks ago, Topple Tanks. It was actually a massive spur of the moment idea. I was standing there at my terminal, probably booking freight or whatever, and I just froze up. I don't know how long. Might have been 2 minutes, 5 minutes, but in that time, I was just standing there staring at my screen. But in my head, all the pieces were slotting together for this game out of, as far as I can tell, nowhere. And at the end of it, I was just like, "Yeah, that seems like it works. I got to make this game." Yeah, prototyped it, tested it, and it worked. Or the majority of the game came about within the span of a couple of minutes. Other than, so the game does have 3 tank types. My original idea was only one, and had to do, of course, a bit of testing and balancing for different ranges and movement allowances and stuff. So there was still that, but most of that was total spur of the moment. But that one is an outlier. That's definitely not the usual. More commonly, it might be a case of I think of a theme, and it's a question of, how could I flesh that out? And a lot of designers talk about whether or not they are a theme first or a mechanic first, or at least it's a common question. It's very interchangeable for me, but both of them are usually very closely linked. Sometimes I might be watching something and like, it'd be awesome to make something in this world, or reading a book and like that, this would be awesome. But almost straight after the question coming up with a theme is the question of, okay, how would you make something fit this? What is the core mechanic that brings out the core ideas of this theme? So you go straight from theme to core mechanic the majority of the time, or sometimes I might come up with a fresh mechanic. But then as soon as I've thought of this mechanic, then it's a question of, all right, what can you do with this mechanic, and then how does what sort of theme fits doing that thing?
It's interesting you say that because when I saw the Nimbus, I immediately thought, "Is this Avatar?" This is all like you got the
Mm.
elements there and stuff. It's like, yes, the king of this, the king is Avatar. So I'm like, damn.
Yeah, it is something that we get here and there is questions whether or not it was Avatar, and it's less so now because we have the lightning movement mode. But actually, the first prototype actually it didn't have lightning. Instead, it was air. So it was literally uh, air, fire, water, and earth, like Avatar. So I'm glad that we deviated slightly to allow some separation from it. Um, but who knows? Maybe we'll do a special set down the track.
Yeah,
On
that's,
you know, Avatar version, and that's actually one of the key things when I set myself that challenge of designing a game that a simple pieces and board game was having it able to be generic. It doesn't have to be elements on the pieces. Those are actually just a holdover from the fact that I initially tried it with a Trump system, and they're a very it's a very universal symbol set. Um, but it's entirely possible to swap those out for any set of 4 symbols. So you could entirely retheme Nimbus to almost anything you want. I mean, personally, I would love to one day do a Warhammer 40k themed set.
get
Ethereum,
like,
the 4 chaos gods fit perfectly.
yeah, like okay, you can turn from a chaos marine to a Tau, or a Tau to a guardsman. Yeah.
See, I would do it more like the black pieces that the 4 corners are all 4 chaos gods, and then pick 4 loyalist chapters for the white side.
Nice.
Yeah, but it does have that versatility, and in fact, the Nimbus symbol was actually inspired by Warhammer 40k. uh,
Oh.
because I came up with the idea, and the very first prototype ever doesn't have a Nimbus symbol on the the effective king piece. We just threw a crown on. But we were in search for a symbol that can be turned. There's no up and down. The crown didn't work very well because you flip it and sometimes suddenly your crown's upside down. Also, a crown has theme tied into it. Even picking the style of a crown suggests a particular culture. We wanted something really generic and that was uniform, no matter how you position your piece. And yeah, my design partner Brian, he suggested the Iron Halo from Warhammer 40k. I looked into the history of the Iron Halo. Where did they get that symbol from? And it's based off the Nimbus, which is a sun disk with rays shooting out of it that was commonly put behind characters like Roman emperors and holy figures. So I was like, yeah, perfect. We use the Nimbus symbol because it still denotes royalty without being whilst still being fairly generic. Plus, I mean, the name of the symbol worked for for naming the game, so it was 2 birds with 1 stone. Yeah,
You've
before that, I
been
was just scrolling.
making these games yourself, like the physical items, haven't you?
Yes, yeah. So
What's that process been like?
Um, yeah, and so the product development for Nimbus has potentially been harder than the actual game design. Um, so I'll start out with talking about our original prototype. And why we've gone down the path that we have with it, which does deviate from what's done with most games these days. So, of course, our first prototype was just it was just paper folded up into triangles. But then after that, we went straight into 3D printed prototypes. And that first one that we took to a convention, it was fully 3D printed. All the symbols were kind of had their own little plate that was snapped into place on each tip, which is a ridiculously painstaking process because each symbol, 3 faces, what's that? 12 plates per piece, times 16 pieces per set. Yeah,
That
it's
was daunting.
yeah. So we had 2 sets like that. But what we weren't expecting was they actually didn't look half bad. And people really liked the look of it. To the point where some people were actually, asking how much it would be to buy our prototype. We weren't expecting this. So we went away afterwards thinking, well, people liked the look of this that much, but there's no way we could charge the amount of money that it cost in time to produce these with how it looked good, but not good enough to charge all that time to a customer. So we're like, okay, let's have a look at what would it take to make this as pretty as possible and really improve our prototype to the point of being a premium product. So it still takes, but potentially, as much time to make, but now it looks like something that is worth that amount of time. And we have massively improved the design so it's not so painful. Because I think if we sold those prototypes and charged all the time, it would probably cost twice as much as our premium ones do already. But yeah, so we focused on improving the design, making it pretty, and the same thing with the board, and then launching ourselves on pretty premium product. So how everything's actually made. Start with the boards. So they are made of Tasmanian oak. So hardwood. We cut out blanks, put it through a CNC. That routes out the pattern and cuts the board out of the blank. Then we sand it down, finish it up, lacquer it, and put the resin inlay into the grooves. Our earlier versions were only laser engraved, and then after that we moved to routing it out and eventually doing the resin inlay. So then that's our final version of the premium boards now, and the pieces are 3D printed impact resistant resin. So they're now only printed in 5 pieces rather than 13. And then we just have to put the corners on, which have to be printed separately because of the different colors. And then the symbols are printed indented on them, which I then paint in those crevices and seal it up. The symbols are reasonably simple to fill in, other than the Nimbus symbol itself is a bit more fine painting to get that one done. But paint it up, seal the piece, and that's it. Then we do also have the metal templates that we include with the premium set to help with learning the game. Did you end up using those when you met us at Supernova?
I think I did. Yeah. I think I did initially, and I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool. Nice."
Yeah, that was actually a suggestion at
Hmm.
our first convention from someone that came by the booth, and as soon as it was said, we were like, yeah, we got to do this. I think Brian knocked up a quick model that night, and printed some.
Damn.
Um, but so that's one of the few things we don't make in-house. We have to outsource to get those because they're metal. They need to be laser cut. but they come to us as a flat piece, which still needs bending up and having the burrs taken off them. And then we do the foam inserts ourselves, so those are just laser cut, and other than that, it's just boxes. So the board and pieces are 100% done in house, and we've maintained that system for our second game, Topple Tanks, as well. And then of course we've now got the deluxe version, which is a very similar process for creating it as the premium, but we're able to cut costs by one. We don't use as high cost hardwood for the board, but more importantly, the grid on it's only laser cut, so it doesn't take time and resources to do the resin infill. And the pieces, instead of having all the symbols painted, they're designed to just have a cap that slides over the base color. So instead of being gold on all the symbols, it's just got the white or black of the base body piece.
With these so during this entire process, so did you learn anything, like any new belief or behavior or habit that's improved your game design skills while making Topple Tanks and Nimbus along the way?
The answer is almost definitely yes. Well, I guess in terms of habits, one of the big things is when I have an idea, write it down as fast as I can. So like I know there's game ideas that have not made it to the list because they just weren't written down fast enough, and I might remember them in 2 years. There's definitely ones that have eventually gone on the list that show up far further down than they were thought of. But I think one of the big things that I've learned is to somewhat read the room. I had completely different plans when deciding to become a publisher, and design all these games. As I said earlier, the original plan was a TCG. Of course, that was ridiculously naive, because once I started designing, but of also researching what it takes to produce one. And that is a mammoth task that is better suited to someone with more time and people on the team. So not off the cards permanently, but we've pivoted for the time being.
You said TCG and cards, and you're like, oh, that sounds like a pun there.
Unintentional. But Nimbus wasn't even planned to be our first release. We actually had designed another game that we were planning on releasing first, and that's actually why we originally went to our first convention. So my children's game, Dinosaur Dash, that it's still actually not released. That was why we originally got a booth at our first tabletop con, and Nimbus ended up coming along for the ride because it was prototype just in time. But it was that convention and the amazing reception we got for Nimbus there that made us start to rethink our plans of instead of having it be our second game, shifting it to coming out first and really focusing on, because people loved it. And I think in the early days, I wasn't even certain if I was going to keep it or if I was going to just try to, just fully design it, but then pass it off to another publisher. But it wasn't until getting that great reception and then thinking about how we could do it ourselves that we totally repivoted, and it's shifted the plans for the whole business. Because now I'm focusing more on abstract strategy games and keeping the same business model running of looking at games that I can self-manufacture starting ourselves off small and growing gradually. So yeah, I think I know it's not so much a specifically design habit, but I think it's important to allow yourself to be flexible, and that amazing game that you want that to be your first thing, but is it the right fit to be the first thing that you produce? A lot of people go into design and you start out wanting to make the biggest game. You want to make the next Gloomhaven. That's your first game. But yeah, that works for some people. But in a lot of cases, it might not be realistic. I have I have plenty of very large projects that I would really love to get going and publish next month or even in the next year. But I know realistically, it's not time for those projects. They can be worked on slowly in the background. You can still give them some love, give them more time, and flesh them out gradually while focusing on the things that are more realistic to get in your practice with design, because that'll help those big amazing ideas you have potentially be even better in the long run if you practice on smaller things and complete a project, see what worked, what didn't work, and then use those learnings for your big passion project. I've got an empire builder that it's not going to be in the next year, but I'd love it if it's maybe in the next 2 years that I get to publish that one. But yeah, I'm going to be patient with it, work on it slowly, and use what I'm learning gradually with design. Yeah, and sorry, I mentioned, so we've got a children's game. Like it's designed for ages 3+. So it's like, nice easy thing. We hit Kickstarter early with that, but I guess we learned that, of course, Kickstarter's a big thing, and going to a Kickstarter for something that you need to raise those thousands of dollars to get it published, and if you don't, then you're not going to get to do anything. That's a big task. So again, we looked at it and like, well, maybe we start our experiencing Kickstarter with things that don't require as much money. We don't need as high a funding threshold, and we can make mistakes with our earlier Kickstarters, because you will make mistakes. You can read all the blog posts in the world. You're still gonna make mistakes, and so it's better to do things on smaller projects, and then do those other ones down the track.
With your Kickstarter, when it first, because when it came out and the level of support you've gotten so far, I think you're on the right path, mind you. You're on the right path. You've done it really. You got to 100% really quickly.
Yeah, and yeah, it's been great to see that, and it's also really great to see. So I've only done things mostly locally, either Brisbane or I did do PAX in Melbourne last year, so that gave us a bit more reach across the country with all the people that fly in for that. I know there is a set somewhere in Western Australia from someone that bought one at PAX, so it is out there. And of course we've have sent sets overseas to reviewers. There's one with Calvin Daniels in Canada, who is an aficionado of abstract strategy games. But it's been great looking at the Kickstarter and seeing where our backers come from, and we've got a bunch from the US, and like, I haven't actively done anything over there. We've got a backer in Egypt, and like it's really amazing to see that support around the globe. Amazing to think that once this Kickstarter's over, the game is going to reach so many more people and so much further in the world. And well, now we also have that online version, so that really helps with our reach. So it's been really exciting to see. And I know that with time, like, I don't think it's tooting. Well, no, not tooting my own horn. Like, I really passionately believe that Nimbus has the capacity to become a potentially mass market game. And the sort of things that we could be running tournaments across the world with. It's going to take some time and it's going to take some effort, but I think
I can totally see it now, like Twitch streamers just playing Nimbus and just going like, "Okay, okay, I just destroyed you."
yeah.
Yeah, what's the biggest hurdle you're gonna encounter once the Kickstarter is over? Essentially, you think
Uh,
it's
I don't really because of because of the way we've done Nimbus, there isn't any big hurdles that I foresee, because it's still going into the manufacturing process that we've been doing for the past year. I guess the biggest hurdle that maybe will pop up is unexpected problems with international shipping or something like that. I've heard plenty of stories of surprises there. So that's probably the biggest thing that I'm wary about. But yeah, it's not going to be something that is insurmountable. Because we're not doing mass manufacturing of any form, there shouldn't be any big hurdles compared to running a standard Kickstarter.
Well, I think we might leave it there. Thanks for joining us.
I think you guys.
yep. Oh, you're good.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Oops, nearly dropped the camera there.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I forget.
Yeah, we
Mine.
will.
Like.
Yeah, we would like to. We would like to have some point meet you in person and play a game with Nimbus at some point, and then maybe
Yeah.
you could maybe go for maybe come for a rematch at Supernova if you're coming to Brisbane Supernova. That is.
Yeah, I haven't got confirmation there yet. Whether or not we've got a slot. So it's I think we're sitting on the wait list for Brisnova. But yes, it'll be good. I'll see you guys at a convention at some point down the track, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thank you guys a lot for having me on the show. It's been great.
You're welcome, man. You're welcome. Giving us give us some really insightful things about your journey.
Well, glad to provide them, and yeah, hopefully I've given people something useful that they can take away for their own design process, and yeah, maybe thinking about whether or not the standard way that most people approach getting into designing and more importantly publishing, whether or not there is an alternative way, because self-manufacturing is becoming much easier to do. And a quick note on that, like it's not that expensive to get yourself a 3D printer. CNC is a little bit more expensive, but nothing crazy. And there are ways to make things yourself and get started slow without having to jump right in the deep end. So it doesn't fit every game, but for those out there, maybe have a look at how you could make your game yourself and in smaller batch runs, just to get yourself off the ground, get that experience, and grow gradually.
Yeah. Anyways, we should end our episode there, Professor.
Yep. Thanks again for joining us, and to all our fans, look after yourselves, and we'll see you next week.
Stay happy, stay nerdy. See you guys.